Good evening and welcome to the school committee meeting for January 26, 2016. I just want everyone to know that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over local cable television. Can we please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I also want to let everyone know that Dorothy Presser will be joining us remotely. So, cell phone rings. Don't be surprised.
I don't know.
I don't.
That's happening when I turn my mic on.
Oh, it is.
I think the chairperson should have this one.
So I get rung in every time I say something. Okay. All right. So the first item on the agenda are the minutes presented for approval for the regular meeting from January 5th, 2016. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve the January 5th, 2016 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Excellent. The minutes pass. The next item on the agenda is the FY16 budget update. Tom?
There you go. You should have in your drive a copy of the detailed budget update through December, as well as a bullet point summary that I'm going to use for my presentation. Just a brief overview here, as we're just about past the halfway point of the fiscal year. We started the year with a $21.8 million budget that includes salaries, expenses, and revenue offsets. In addition, we have $550,000 in capital funds appropriated, the majority of which was used for various technology upgrades across the district, as well as the central office renovation and the preschool move to Summer Street. In terms of revenue and savings, we're anticipating about $225,000 to $250,000 in full-day kindergarten revenue. This is the largest kindergarten enrollment to date that we've had. That projection is a little lower than usual. There'll be presentations following later tonight that'll shed some more light on that number, so I won't go into too much detail on it now. Anticipated preschool revenue and activity fee revenue are right in line with where we budgeted, about $70,000 to $80,000 for preschool revenue, which every year gets returned to the town. $180,000 to $190,000 of activity fee revenue, again, right in line with where we projected. In terms of prepaid special education tuitions, we did that in June 2015, as we've done it each year. It's very helpful that we've been able to start the year off with a bit of a cushion. This is the first year we may actually have to dip into it, as I'll explain later as I get towards the end. We've had some overages in special education tuition. In terms of salary, right now I've targeted about $160,000 in current savings level that we're at. It's a bit of a rough moving target. We've had some indefinite leaves from staff members in the district. As soon as those are a bit more clear, I'll be able to hone in on a number, but that's what I'd go with right now. Circuit breaker revenue from the state is 73%, which the full funding is considered 75%, so that's, it's almost to the max. If we get to the max, they may give us the maximum amount by the end of June. That would only be about a $10,000 difference, so it's not a huge difference amount. In terms of expenses, special education tuition, as I mentioned, if we incorporate everything that we prepaid, then we're only over by about $10,000, but without that, it's closer to $200,000. In addition, if you take transportation, it's another about $90,000 over. There's really two parts to that. The first is obviously we had some additional students come in during the year that we had to absorb costs related to them. And when you pay the tuition, you also have to transport them. The second part of it is a few years back, the town decreased the fleet number of buses that they have. And we've had to go with an outside vendor, especially for a lot of our daytime special ed runs. The outside vendor is significantly more expensive than what one of our town bus drivers would cost. So that's really the two parts to that. To finish up, basically, right now I'm hoping that we would be able to prepay about $50,000 towards next year. That's obviously significantly lower than what we've prepaid in the past. As staffing projections become more clear in the second half of the year, hopefully we can increase that number, but there's no guarantee that savings number will increase as we firm up our projections. On that note, any questions? Okay, thanks.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the kindergarten presentation.
So a big topic of conversation for tonight's presentation, budget presentation, is going to be around our full-day kindergarten program. So I'm going to ask Maureen Fennessy and Christina Noche, our two curriculum specialists at the elementary level, to come to the table, and they're going to share with you some facts about the programming and the changes that have taken place in kindergarten in general since the inception of the tuition-based full-day kindergarten program 12 years ago. So Maureen and Christina, you can come on up. Christina, will you open the slide on the projector? You're all set up to go. I'm not sure if you have enough devices up there.
It's a lot.
Well,
All right. Thank you for having us tonight. I'd like to start with, let's go to the next slide. It's fine.
Just too many.
All right. I'm going to start with a little bit of history about our kindergarten program here in Linfield. The first year the full-day kindergarten program was offered here in Linfield was the 2004-2005 school year. At that time, there were 2 full-day programs, full-day classes offered at Summer Street School out of 4 classes, and there was 1 class offered out of 3 classes at the Huckleberry Hills School. At present, all of our classes are a hybrid model of the .7 and the full-day program. Okay. We have stood by the fact since the inception of this program that our .7 students are receiving the same academic experience, and I credit the hard work of our kindergarten staff, who's here tonight, for making that possible, even with the increased demands of the curriculum that we've seen over the past few years. We would like, however, to be able to develop full-day programming that would benefit all of our students. As fewer and fewer students choose to stay as just .7 students, we're still planning our entire day for 200 students for the needs of just those 25 students, or 22 students as it is right now, that are in .7.
So at this point, I'd like to highlight what we are thinking about, and when I say we, I'm talking about the leadership team at the elementary school level. Brian Bemis, Jen Tobias, Kara Morrow's also been part of a lot of our conversations as well, as we're thinking about, is this something that we really truly can believe in and want the best for our students? And there've been lots of rich conversations over the last few weeks, and really thinking about what are the benefits of full-day kindergarten. And before I highlight some things on this slide, I just want to answer a question that many people may have, is the why now? Why are many districts talking about full-day kindergarten? Why is most of our neighboring communities moving forward with this initiative? And we're really feeling that our students are ready. And the increased day that our students are having before they're coming to our kindergarten programs, whether it be in their preschool or daycare experiences, they're spending time away from the home at longer hours and period of time. We know that part of our culture, we're seeing the increased influence of the television and internet. Our young learners are being exposed to more information at an earlier age than they had in the past. And really, we're seeing an increased age in our students entering our kindergarten programs, as far as parents withholding children from enrolling in kindergarten, and that idea of readiness, where many parents are feeling that they're giving their students an extra month or 2, especially if they have a summer birthday. So we're seeing older students in our kindergarten programs. As far as how we've really come up with the true things that we feel would benefit all of our students in a full-day kindergarten program, would be that increased instructional time. As Christina had mentioned, our program is a .7 program for academics. And the other additional parts of the full-day program provide some enrichment and that extended day. But to have increased instructional time for all students would be able to really beef up our group read-alouds that we're having. That's something that we've talked about at a level of importance at prior school committee meetings, being able to have more small grouping, whether it be with mixed abilities or to provide academic enrichment or increased levels of individualized instruction for our students. We've also talked about having the longer day for all of the students to be engaged in more child-initiated activities, lending more choice time to our students to explore areas that they are comfortable with, and for the teachers to be able to provide supports to enrich the development in all areas. And we've also discussed being able to implement a longer blocks of inquiry-based learning, where our young learners, we know that this is an important model for our young students, and to be able to really have the time of longer studies to be with a true engagement, exploration, investigation, and that communication piece, where when our academics are condensed into the smaller day, there's often a sense of, we need to get this, we need to keep moving, there's something else that we need to cover, and to be able to have the time to dive deeper in some subject areas. As far as benefits for the students, so I highlighted some things that we felt instructionally could benefit the current model that we have, but as far as the benefits for the students, and that's a big piece of moving forward with the full-day kindergarten for all students, would be that increased independent learning, that self-selected activities that I had previously mentioned. Research and studies have shown that students have an increased classroom involvement, not only for kindergarten, but through their elementary years. An increased productivity and working with peers, having, and Christina will highlight this a bit more, but having the opportunity to work side by side with peers in a productive way, and having the adults being able to intervene and provide support with their social emotional development. And studies have also shown that students that are all part of a full-day kindergarten program have an increased level of reflectiveness, that thinking about themselves and being able to respond about their own learning.
The social emotional concerns are not only a Linfield concern, but more of a global concern now, as we're seeing young kids coming to us with increased levels of anxiety and outside stressors. I'm actually in a subcommittee with other districts at the Northeast Consortium for Staff Development this year, and the topic that we're discussing and are determined to find resources for over the course of this year is this topic of the social emotional concerns, because it is such a widespread concern. Studies have found that full-day students have significantly higher studenting behaviors in the areas of obeying playground rules, showing self-confidence, and putting forth their best effort. According to studies, by being able to spread out the instruction and student demands over the course of a full day, it lowers the level of student frustration and stress, which is so important. Since Linfield has offered full-day kindergarten in 2004-2005, we've seen many changes to the curriculum, especially with the adoption of the Common Core state standards and the 2011 Massachusetts state frameworks.
So what this slide depicts is the red band on the left-hand side is showing a representation of the English Language Arts frameworks from 2001, where 34 standards fell into the pre-K to 2 range, because at that point in time the frameworks were organized by primary and intermediate grade level bands at the elementary level. Those 34 standards in 2011, only one of those same standards that were previously in a pre-K to 2 band appear as the end of grade 2. And I'll talk a little bit more in a bit to tease that out. For the 15 standards that were once pre-K and K only in 2001, that bumped up to having 43 standards. So you can see how things have changed from in 2001, where the framework was really organized in a spiral manner, where, oh, well, you can touch upon it, but you'll get back to it at some point within these 3 years of instructional time, being the pre-K to 2, where in 2011 saying all of those standards need to be met before students are even entering grade 2 in our program. Here's some wording that may make that a bit more clear. In 2001, the frameworks said to continue to address earlier standards as needed. That's what I had mentioned, that go back, spiral back around and touch base with some of the kids that may not have had that level of mastery at an earlier level. To in 2011, where the language is much different, really demanding that students have grade-specific standards, where they're developing skills and understandings at a level of mastery from the preceding grades in order to build it forward. So that language right there over 10, you can see how in a matter of 10 years, how the demands have changed for our kindergarten program. Here is another example as far as the language of the framework and the increased expectations as far as 2001, asking students to be able to print upper and lowercase letters of the alphabet to a list of 6 details of what exactly how students should command the conventions of standard English grammar and usage when writing and speaking, and where print is one of a bulleted list for that same standard. The rigor is not what we're hoping to increase in our current kindergarten programs. The state has done that for us. The state has set the rigor. We're really talking about increased opportunities where we're feeling that some of our students may be lacking, where everyone could benefit from having the supports of a longer day and time. It's not something where we're thinking that our program doesn't have what we need academically. That piece we truly feel is in place at this point in time. Christina?
You can see with the math graph up here that the number of standards, the change isn't quite as great as we see in ELA, but we are seeing that the rigor certainly is, and our next couple of slides will show you that. Here you can see just with the counting and cardinality, the big thing that we see changed here is being able to count from up to just 20 to now being able to count up to 100. And also it opened up a whole new flexibility of thinking around those numbers as well. And not just counting to 100, but also being able to count forward and backwards and from any number, where the original expectation was just 20, which is quite a jump. On this next slide, we're seeing the biggest changes here. The learning shifts from solving simple addition and subtraction problems with manipulatives in front of you or with a very simple drawing to actually composing and decomposing numbers up to 10 and making complements of 10. This shift is key to the increased number sense and numeracy that is necessary to continue on through first and second and third grade. So it's a major change for kindergarten.
Just in closing, as far as the curriculum changes, there is the increased rigor, which I had mentioned, has come from the state frameworks. The less spiraling of the standards and a higher expectation of mastery at each grade level is something that has had the greatest effect on our current kindergarten program. And kindergarten really it's not just kindergarten. It's really that beginning part of that pre-K to 12 learning curriculum that's important for all of our students. I do want to highlight that the length of the day is really only one dimension of the K experience. And Christina and I have tried to, in a condensed way, be able to share the conversations we're having about the benefits that it could mean for our curriculum, for all of our students. But it's important to note that the length of the school day is only one dimension of this kindergarten experience, because the other important issues are really the quality of teaching and the following of the standards, and those are things that we already have in place in our current programs. So at this point in time, I would like to welcome any questions you may have.
You guys demonstrated that the curriculum's changed in the past 10 or 11 years. Has that same trickle-down effect gone into preschool guidelines as well? So have you had a similar change in terms of, lack of a better description, it's amped up from 2000 to 2011 what you need to know in kindergarten. Is that same track true for preschool as well? So the expectations in 2000 for preschool are substantially different in 2011 or to date? Did you do research on that, or can you answer that question?
Sure.
Yep,
As far as from 2001, there were suggestions that it was more based on what was outlined in that K-2 continuum, that it would be more of that preview. Now there are currently preschool kindergarten standards that it's expected mastery at the end. And Christina and I have spent time the last couple of years working with our preschool as far as teasing out those standards and what would it look like in an authentic preschool program, you know, that would still meet that academic needs that the state's calling for, but still being developmentally appropriate and sound. And that's the same for our pre-K and into kindergarten.
So then it's safe to say, like, it's trickled down, or it's everywhere. So as we've evolved, as the frameworks have evolved, it's affected every dynamic of every classroom from pre-K through 12.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And we've seen it a bit differently because, of course, the grade levels that have the high stakes tests, they didn't have the length of time to acclimate themselves to the standards. It was more of, this is what it's calling for. We need to make sure that the kids are at this place, not only for our state tests, but also for the transition to our middle school. Are we really doing that? And as far as kindergarten, it's really the last piece of our pre-K kindergarten program of really talking about increasing, what those increasing demands really look like. But at the same time, sometimes we can sound hypocritical at the meetings because we're also saying, here is the expectations, but at the same time, what does play look like?
Right.
And what are those opportunities for play looking like? And sometimes I've had to say those words within 10 minutes of each other, and it can be quite a mixed message to send. And having that increased time, we're hoping that those conversations can go a little bit easier.
And I think that one of the things that we're most proud of here in Linfield is that we're constantly looking and reflecting on our practice and seeing how we can make it better. And we've put so much time and effort in, including with kindergarten, you know, starting in 2010 when we saw what this document would look like and making sure that they were meeting those needs. But to now look back and reflect and say, we're meeting the needs of those rigorous standards, but what can we do better? And it's that additional time and how we can use that time to be more flexible.
So we basically have a full, it's the 11th graders when we started full day kindergarten, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So have we collected any data, either quantitative, qualitative, about performance, social emotional performance for kids who go full day versus 0.7 at any point?
I have not.
I have not either. No, we have not. The data that we have is really all around the academics. And as Christina had said, and I will also speak to in my presentation, is that one of the things that we've done really well is to stand by that comment that I have said for the past 12 years, which is, and you'll hear this again in my presentation, if you choose to send your child to a 0.7 kindergarten program in Linfield, we are promising you that they will come out with the same academic readiness as their full-day counterparts. So we do stand by that. What you're going to hear me say tonight is it's becoming more and more difficult to stand by that as we are looking at taking all of these frameworks and, for the lack of a better word, putting them all into 3.5 hours. So that's what that's what you'll hear me speak about. But in terms of collecting that data specifically on 0.7 students or full day students, we don't have that data. We do have data to suggest, though, that the students who are sitting in front of us today, from kindergarten all the way to grade 12, are dealing with social and emotional issues in a way that we have not seen in the past. So I cannot link that to 0.7 or full day, but I can tell you it's a reality for what our teachers are facing every day in our classrooms.
And I think that one of the important things to note too is that with our plan for this, it's not just going to increase the quality of education for our .7 students. It's going to really increase the quality of education for all of our kindergarten students because we're going to really be able to better plan the entire day for the full day students.
Questions were answered. Any follow-up?
That's it.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, next on the agenda is the superintendent's budget recommendations for FY '17.
What is this? What? Yeah, you want to put it on at the beginning and then put it on present, but you've got to go all the way back to, go back to the first slide. I keep wanting to think, I think it's a,
That's,
yeah. Okay. If I put that there, is that going to be okay? Lot of technology. Okay, so that works. As a jumping off point for tonight's presentation and conversation, I really want to focus on our mission and on our vision. Our mission is really about our purpose. It's basically why we exist. So the mission of the Linfield Public Schools is to support and challenge all of the students to meet their full potential as individuals and citizens of the global community. Our vision is really about our aspirations for what we want for our students, what we value and why. What we want for our students is also outlined very clearly in our district strategy. The vision that we all decided upon this summer as we were working on the district strategy is that the Linfield Public Schools is to foster a culture of excellence in teaching and learning, to create intellectually curious learners, broaden individual skills and talents to maximize each student's potential. So as we go through the budget presentation tonight, I really want you to be thinking about what our mission is and what our vision is. So in addition to our mission and our vision, we have a district strategy that we have some specific strategic objectives that are outlined in the strategy. These are the overarching goals for improvement that will really help us to achieve our vision and our mission. Everything that I am going to present to you this evening will be tied back to one of these 5 areas, which also obviously supports our mission and vision. So everything that we're going to be talking about will either tie back to building leadership capacity, building educator growth, really talking and focusing about our curriculum and instruction, our assessment and accountability practice, and of course, always coming back to meeting the needs of all our students. So as you listen intently, hopefully, to this presentation tonight, I want you to be asking yourself these questions. Does this proposed budget support our district strategy objectives? Does this proposed budget support the district's mission for continuous growth in teaching and learning? And does this proposed budget reflect a fiscally responsible mindset? I'm asking you to ask yourself these 3 questions as we go along, because as an administrative leadership team, we constantly went back to this as we were talking about the budget, as we were weighing our wants and needs, ending up with the needs that I'm going to give you in this presentation. We believe that this presentation, what we're presenting tonight, will keep us on the pathway of excellence that we have really become accustomed to in Linfield. So I have set this presentation up for you this evening in different sections. The first section is to give you an overview of broad strokes of what the budget proposals will be. The second section, I will share with you anticipated outcomes if this proposal is actually put into action. And the third section will really tease out the financial implications of each of these proposals. So the first proposal is, with this first proposal, we would actually be eliminating one of the secretarial positions from my office at the central office, and we would be adding one K-12 system-wide administrator. So So this is to restructure the Executive Secretary of Curriculum and Instruction position, and this vacancy is due to a retirement, to create a district-wide teacher of learning, Director of Teaching and Learning. The second proposal is to provide a tuition-free, full-day kindergarten program for all of our students. Next, we have a reassignment of classroom teachers to support equity in the class size at all levels. And then I would like to be able to expand our elementary music program. The last thing that will be on the presentation this evening is to further develop the special education programming at the preschool level. So the first proposal, I want to talk about this position of Director of Teaching and Learning, and I've broken it down to you in two different categories. The first category is, what will the anticipated classroom outcomes be? And then the second category is, what will the anticipated administrative outcomes be? Before I share the outcomes with you, I just want to take you a little bit through our thought process as we talked about this position, because I think it's really important to what the final outcome was, which was this Director of Teaching and Learning. So we've had the position of Executive Secretary for Curriculum Instruction in place in this district for pretty much as long as I can remember, and I've been in the district for just about 30 years. This is a position in my office. The person who currently is in that position is retiring after 25 years of service. So one of the things that I think that our team does really well is to look for ways to maximize our resources in order to have the greatest impact on our classrooms, ultimately on our students' successes. So two examples of how we've restructured and how we've maximized our resources in the most recent past. One of the things that we did, we have stood in front of you heard it today with Maureen and Christina. I've stood in front of you, principals have stood in front of you, teachers have stood in front of you and talked about the social emotional needs of our students. So we heard that loud and clear at the high school level. So what we were able to do at the high school level was really to combine some of our resources to create a full-time high school adjustment counselor. So that's one example of how restructuring has been successful in the past. The other example actually has to do with our preschool program. So when we moved our preschool program over to Summer Street, we knew that that could be a difficult challenge and change for our students, our teachers, our parents. So one of the things that we did is we looked around at the people who are in our district already, and we looked at strengths and weaknesses, and we said we need to develop a preschool leadership team. So we found someone who was best working with behavior. We found people who were best working with curriculum development. We found people who had great leadership skills, and we put all those people together and we created this preschool leadership team. So this retirement offers us an opportunity to step back, take inventory, and really think about if this resource in its current form is really what we need in order to bring life to our district strategy or to move our strategy forward. So when we did that, we realized that if we restructured this position, we can get a greater impact on our classrooms, improving the teaching and learning. So first I want to explain the classroom outcomes from the teaching standpoint. So under the new teacher evaluation, most of our teachers right now are falling in the rating of proficient. So the deciding indicator between proficient and exemplary for our teachers is being able to model lessons and instructional practices continually and authentically throughout their professional career. So this is not just modeling once a year at a faculty meeting. It's not just modeling once a year at a PD day. It actually falls under our educated growth from our strategic plan. This is about sharing their practice, sharing their wisdom, sharing their skills. Currently, we don't have a lot of opportunities for that. And to some degree, we have teachers that are working at that exemplary level, but we're not able to give them that rating because we do not have those opportunities for them to share their practice with teachers in this continuous manner. So this person, the Director of Teaching and Learning, would be able to facilitate that throughout the district for teacher improvement and to realize one of our goals, which is building leadership capacity. When this happens, these outcomes will become a reality. So when this Director of Teaching and Learning is able to do this, it will ensure consistent, high-quality learning experiences. It will expand proven instructional practices K-12. It will increase opportunities for teachers to model effective teaching practices, and it will advance more of our teachers into that exemplary level. So to summarize this slide, the position will allow for a couple of key components that I believe really add up to the recipe for success for students and teachers. This position is very administrative in nature, but it would be very much embedded into the classroom. The idea is to get as close to the classroom as possible. It would include consistent, almost relentless oversight of the classroom, which would include ongoing, genuine sharing of practice, consistently pushing those proven practices, resources, and methodologies deeper and further throughout the system. So we are able to do this right now in terms of, to a limited degree, pushing those practices within our own schools. What I would like to see is have that realized K-12. I said when we were talking about the district strategy, we have an amazing faculty that we are fortunate to have here in Linfield. We are not using them to the ability that we should be using them. This opportunity for a Director of Teaching and Learning to really take the reins on that would help us to do that. So the administrative impact is much more concrete. So when we're talking about the administrative impact, we're talking about curriculum. So this has been somewhat of a frustration for me throughout the years as a teacher, as a principal, and more importantly, as the superintendent. For the past 3 years, we've done a really nice job in the area of English language arts. We've been able to do that because we have contracted in with a consultant who really is proficient in this area. She has had the opportunity to meet regularly over the past 3 years with our English language arts leadership team, and we've seen the progress from that. You saw the results in that when the principal sat in front of you in the fall and they talked to you about their school improvement plans. I think Dorothy actually commented on how important it was to actually have that shared focus K-12. And quite frankly, that is really something that is missing in our discipline areas. For as long as I've been in the district, I don't ever remember having one disciplinary area on a school improvement plan K-12. We should be striving for that. We should be working towards that. So I would envision the Director of Teacher and Learning taking this on and leading the learning K-12. Another area that we really need to spend some focus time on, and this also is outlined in my district strategy, is really talking about the specialty areas and providing them leadership. Currently what's happening is the specialists are trying to do this on their own, and I give them a lot of credit. They're doing a nice job trying to pull together their departments K-12. The problem with the current format is it doesn't offer enough consistency and momentum to really make the changes that we need to make in those areas. That one person, Director of Teaching and Learning, could provide that leadership on an ongoing basis. The other thing that we would be able to do is we would be able to develop and sustain smaller professional learning communities with our discipline areas, much like ELA has been able to do with the outside consultant. So I would envision the Director of Teaching and Learning sitting down with each of the discipline areas, social studies by itself, math by itself, ELA by itself, all the way down the line. Currently, what's happening is we have a Linfield Curriculum Council, which is everybody, all of the discipline areas. So we have the directors at the elementary level, the middle school, and we have the department heads at the high school. That's a bigger conversation that we have. The things that we tackled last year through that committee were DDMs. We should be able to get more than just one initiative done in the course of a school year. The other thing that is much needed in our district is really developing a centralized curriculum database in order to have everything in one spot. Middle school has done a nice job at that. We really need to be able to spread that out K-12. This continuous work on curriculum is directly linked to our classrooms. With the consistent work of a director of teaching and learning, this would become the norm instead of the exception. It would become embedded in our culture, much like we have embedded our assessment practices into our culture, and much like we have embedded the commitment to professional development over the past few years in our culture. So, additional administrative outcomes include work on professional development. So one of the things I'd like to be able to do is take our Summer Institute projects that we run at the end of the school year and really have them looked at and scrutinized and really talked through in a very in-depth manner, making sure that they are supporting our district strategy, making sure that they're supporting our school improvement plans, and making sure that they're supporting our Educator SMART goals. I would like to be able to facilitate and implement the assessment of the high-quality professional development that we have in the district. We've spent a lot of time on making sure that we have that time for professional development, so to be able to see that link K-12 would be in the best interest of our students. This person would also act as a liaison to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed, not just for teacher licensure, but also for initiatives and mandates that come out, as you heard today, about the curriculum mandates that have been of recent. So when we think about this, again, the Maureen and Christina said this, why now? Why is this so important? The reason why this is so important now is because so much has changed. There's so much more on the principals' desks than ever before. Teacher evaluation, professional development mandates from DESE, including ELL, special education, CPI, medical training, new laws in bullying, civil rights, DDM, safety concerns, training, planning, and that really just scratches the surface. None of these were in place when I became a principal. The world of education that we are in right now is changing every single day, and we don't get the luxury of telling the powers to be, meaning the DESE, that we're not quite ready to take on those mandates yet. They're called mandates for a reason. For every mandate issued by the DESE, valuable time is being taken away from our students, because valuable time is being taken away from our principals. Our principals' main job is to really work with the teachers and the faculty in their building. They're coaching, they're mentoring, they're working on their practice, and they're not just doing this through teacher evaluation. It has to be done in a genuine and authentic way on a daily basis if we really want to make a difference in the classrooms for our students. Additionally, our NEASC report very clearly outlined areas that we needed improvement on in Linfield. Some of the suggestions that I took right off of the NEASC report are: provide an administrative position to coordinate and support revision and implementation of curriculum, instruction, and assessment across the district. Update progress on the planning of hiring consultants who will be working with the remaining curriculum councils for all departments based on the model used for ELA. And finally, include representatives for the Unified Arts on LCC, which is the Linfield Curriculum Council. So this position would actually address all of those concerns as well. The bottom line is, we have a lot of work to do. We have, I am very excited. I am anxious to get the work done. We have put together an incredibly solid and practical and thoughtful district strategy. It's in place. And if we execute that correctly, if it is done with a sense of urgency, I know that it will make us realize our vision, and it will bring this district from a really, 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 really good district to a great district. We talk about, when we were first putting the strategy together, we had lots of conversations at this table. We had lots of conversations in workshops, and we talked a whole lot about we have to move slow to move fast. Well, I'm here to tell you it's officially time to pick up the pace, and we've got to get going. And this Director of Teaching and Learning would help us do that. So moving on to the next initiative, Maureen and Christina gave a really nice overview of our current program, highlighting again some of the differences and expectations from the DESE since we began our full-day program. So this proposal is really about redefining our kindergarten program. It's about offering that high-quality program that all kids can access for success in what some people might argue are the most important years of their entire educational career. Lots of conversations and thought have gone into this proposal, spanning not only over the course of a couple years, but the conversations have taken place behind closed doors and professional learning communities in our buildings. They're taking place during team meetings and, more importantly, during assessment meetings. The conversations are and continue to be centered around problem solving and troubleshooting the ongoing dilemma of the increased demands with little or no wiggle room for time due to the current programming challenges. So one of the things that I alluded to earlier, and I will say again, that I have stood in front of parents for the better part of the last 12 years, and I have told them and believed with every fiber of my body that if you choose a 0.7 kindergarten option, that from an academic standpoint, they would be just as ready as their counterparts in the full-day program entering first grade. We were able to fill this in a very easy way when this all began. We structured the day for our kindergarten program so that all of the academics were taught during that 0.7 time frame. It was very doable. We also, during that time, had time for purposeful play for all students. We had time for social and emotional development. As I stand before you today, I'm telling you that that promise is becoming more and more difficult to fulfill. You saw the presentation. Imagine how that plays out in a kindergarten classroom. I will tell you, as the leader of the learning in Linfield, we are not in the business of just covering material. We are in the business of teaching in a reflective and thoughtful manner, and not just to the masses. We have to make sure that we are very pristine with what we're doing in our classrooms. We are not just checking things off lists. It's not the way that we do it here. Our goal is to teach the strengths and weaknesses of our students who are sitting in front of us. Our goal is to offer opportunities to our students to realize our vision, which is to become intellectually curious learners, maximizing their skills, their talents, and their potential. Due to the outside forces that have been thrust upon us, and what I mean by that is what's happening with the Common Core, when that came down, with the different, with Maureen and Christine was telling you about the DESE, our program is becoming unbalanced, and it wasn't always that way. We were able to maintain a balance between the academic, social, and emotional development before those changes were put upon us by the state. We pride ourselves in this community in having a very high educational experience for all our students, a very rich educational experience. We also pride ourselves in putting the needs of our students first. In this instance, I will tell you, this proposal, like the others in this presentation tonight, this is not a want. As the demands increase, not only academically from the outside, our social and emotional demands are increasing from the inside. I would deem this a need if we are truly in the business of working to serve all students. This next slide that I'm going to show you, I don't expect you to be able to read this. I just want you to be able to see the visual. So I want to point out a couple things about this slide. This slide of Massachusetts, everything that you see in white are towns that have adopted a tuition-free full-day kindergarten program. On this slide, there are 262 of them. There are 84 of them that are tuition-based. Those are in the oranges and the yellows. So what you need to know about this slide is this is from 2014-15. I tried to get the data from 2015-16. It's not published yet. What I do know, that if this were the 2015-16 slide, you would also see on here Sudbury, who just implemented it this year, and Wakefield, who just implemented it this year. Superintendent of Sudbury is Ann Wilson. Superintendent of Wakefield is Kim Smith. In my conversations with them, they are saying exactly everything that I'm saying here tonight. When they stood in front of their school committees, they said we were able to do this, but now with the rigor that's coming in from the state, we too are finding ourselves in an imbalanced program. So the other thing that I would like to point out here, and again, I know you can't see this, so I will say it for you, is that the North Shore communities that have chosen to go from a tuition-based program to a full-day program tuition-free include Hamilton, Wenham, Essex, Manchester, Rockport, Swampscott, Marblehead, Ipswich, North Andover, and there's a handful of more, as you could well imagine. So I just want to give you that as a visual, and I just want to share with you that we are not the only community in the state who finds themselves in this very unique challenge. So let's move on to our next proposal. So our next proposal is about reallocating classroom teachers. So we really started with a need again, a need to add 2 teachers at the elementary level due to projected high enrollment in the 1st and 2nd grade. So in true fashion of what we've done and what we've done well, before jumping into this request, we really needed to do a careful analysis of the class sizes across the district. And in doing this, we realized that we are projected to have some very low classes at Linfield Middle School next year, low to the level of 17. So again, we worked to reconstruct or restructure the Linfield Middle School classrooms in order to fill this need. Now, I say this to you when last year I stood in front of you and I actually had a full slide about Linfield Middle School. And I talked to you about the great gains that Linfield Middle School has made and how we really need to work hard to preserve that. That soundbite has not gone away. I still feel very strongly about that. The success at the middle school will not be compromised by this reallocation. So we are confident that we are going to be able to keep the success rate that we've had at the middle school and the success rate that we've had at the elementary schools in doing this. Again, we believe that this is fiscally responsible. It is one of the most fiscally responsible plans that we have. We take the request for staffing extremely seriously. So we don't just sit there and say the numbers look high, we definitely need 2 teachers. It's okay, the numbers look high. What are the other resources that we have? Can we reallocate? Can we restructure something else? And when we sit down and we looked at that, it was absolutely positively the case. So the next slide is going to show you what the anticipated class size will be from grade 1 to grade 8. So the 3 columns are the grades, the projected average class size, and the class size guidelines. So you'll see that it all falls within the suggested class guidelines set by you, the school committee. The other thing that we did when we were working on this and we were really thinking about it, we really needed to make sure that this was not a 1-year bubble or a 2-year bubble. We really, when we looked at all the data, we realized that with the data that we have, the projected average class size is going to stay within this range all the way out to school year 2021. And so the big disclaimer I'm going to put on that is that's what the data is telling me today. You and I both well know that we could get 14 move-ins at any time, or we could have 14 kids move from the district. But in all our best effort and best faith, we are telling you that that will work. Is Dorothy coming in?
I told her I'm not going to say hello, so you just keep going.
Oh, okay. So something else that we would like to do is to expand the elementary music program. So what we'd like to do with this is make one full-time music specialist or educator at each of the elementary buildings. There are many benefits that our students will get from this. One of the big things that our students will get is obviously an increased student exposure to music at an early age. This will really give them a positive impact on their music aptitude. The other thing that it's going to allow us to do is there's a lot of, and people probably don't realize this, but there is a lot of interdisciplinary project-based learning that's happening between the music educators and our classroom teachers. So I'll give you some examples. So I know that our music educators are working with grade 1 on their technology standards. They're working with grade 3 on supporting math concepts such as fractions when they're actually writing their own music and doing their beats and doing that sort of thing. In grade 4, they're working in the area of science to study sound. So this would offer them a greater opportunity to do that. Another big benefit from this is it would expand the focus on ensembles and performing. And so this would really help as we talk about and think about having a feeder program for our middle school and for our high school. And the performances at the elementary school, they're really important. And right now, the only time that our elementary students get to perform any sort of music is really once a year. They get to do it if they choose to go to the Fine Arts Night. Both of the music educators at both of the schools do a phenomenal job of having each of the grade levels get up and perform, but that's only once a year. The other area that they get to perform at is grade 4 gets to perform at their moving on ceremony. And again, a great benefit from this that's not on this slide is that at the end of the day, this area is sometimes the only area that some of our students excel in, that they shine in, that this is their strength. And so it would give them an increased opportunity to experience that. So the last slide for proposals that I have for you this evening is special ed. And this is probably the one that is most straightforward because this is really all about expanding our special ed program. The current special ed preschool program is going to require a greater level of programming for the next school year in order to meet all of the needs. It will also offer an opportunity for peer models to support integration opportunities. So the last part of this slide doesn't necessarily belong on this slide, but it does have a significant impact on our budget. And Tom talked about this a little bit in his update for the budget presentation. The transportation costs all around are increasing. The demands of and Tom spoke about this too, the demands of our in-district transportation, having students bused within the district for their programming has increased. And at the same time, as Tom mentioned, our fleet of buses is decreasing. So this isn't only having an impact on us from this standpoint, but it's also having an impact on us from an athletic standpoint. So I thought it was important for you to see that. So this is the breakdown. So by restructuring the executive secretary of curriculum instruction and creating a position of a director of teaching and learning, it's going to be approximately $50,000 to meet the needs of our preschool students and provide them with a high quality programming. It's going to be approximately $57,000, and to expand our elementary music programming, we would have to add a 0.5 teacher, and that would be approximately $40,000. So that's the breakdown. What you don't see on here is anything having to do with the 2 elementary teachers that we're talking about, because we're able to do that by restructuring and reallocating funds. So this next slide. So this is probably the most difficult slide to speak to, because our full day program brings in revenue for us each year, and that revenue is needed. So we're going to have to account for that. And I am standing in front of you, and I am asking you to approve something that will result in that loss of revenue. Making full-day K compulsory for all our students is without a question or a doubt a long-term investment for not only our students, but for our entire school district. So I'm going to explain to you how and why this will work, not only for the FY17 budget, but how it will also be sustainable. This is a very unique year for us in terms of hiring. We had an unprecedented number of very veteran staff abruptly leave over the summer months, well after we had already figured out the budget process, after that was complete, after town meeting. One of the things that we are working on in our hiring practices, and is actually outlined quite nicely in our district strategy, is our attention to detail when it comes to hiring. We are intentional, thoughtful, and we were very calculated when we were filling those positions that left in the summer. And what I mean by that is, we were able to hire personnel at a much lower rate. And we were able to do this without compromising any part of the integrity of our programming or any of our classrooms. To some degree, we experience this sort of thing every year. Unexpected, people that leave unexpectedly. We have never experienced the volume that we experienced this year. This is why this is the year that we can capitalize on this. So now if you turn your attention to this impact chart. In fiscal year 17, in this budget, we will use $160,000 of what is left in our kindergarten account to help offset the overall budget increase due to this proposal. FY18, we will absorb $100,000 to offset that increase, and the following year we'll be left with $45,000. So as we move forward, the incremental cost of what has to be absorbed becomes more manageable, with ultimately absorbing the entire tuition in our budget. So what I mean by that, when I say absorb, what I mean by that is that if we go back to this slide, you will not see in any of the future budgets a cost of $240,000 because we need to support the fact that full-day K is no longer on our radar. So we are going to be able to have that in our budget within the typical budget increases that we have received from the town. So does that mean that ultimately the taxpayers are paying for it? Mm-hmm. It absolutely does, because the taxpayers are ultimately paying for our entire budget. But when I say absorb, what I mean is you're not going to see it as something that I'm going to stand up here and say, we need to add in $200,000 or $240,000 in order to do that. So the bottom line is, I'm telling you, this indeed is a unique year. We are not in the business of giving up revenue. I understand that. After many long, long hours of conversations in working intentionally with the finance director, with Tom, we have figured out a way to make this work in order to strengthen our current program for all learners, ultimately making a long-term investment in our school district. Our next slide is going to talk about our capital requests. And so our capital requests continue to fall under technology. It's 100% technology, with a total of $250,000. We are looking to continue to maintain our infrastructure and our networking technology, and we are looking to complete all of the expansion of our wireless network to meet the requirements of our increasing amount of mobile devices and web-based curriculum initiatives. So in the end, This is probably the most important slide. The total appropriation request is 22.8 million. The proposed increase is 4.5. Understanding that we are in the middle of negotiations with our teachers union, so there is a placeholder for the teachers contract. We feel comfortable and confident that we're going to be able to settle that contract within this. So that brings us back to one of the first slides that I showed you. So your questions are, or some of your questions are, does the proposed budget support our district strategy objectives? Does the proposed budget support the district's mission for continuous growth in teaching and learning? And does the proposed budget reflect a fiscally responsible mindset? So at this time, I've given you a tremendous amount of information, and I would be happy to answer any and all questions that you have.
Okay, first I want to welcome Dorothy. Can you hear us, Dorothy? Yes, we can hear you. Okay, question, Sal, you look like,
Thank you, Jane.
oh,
Well thought
your,
out, well planned.
hold on, your
sorry.
microphone isn't staying on.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, Jane. Well planned, a very analytical. Thank you. Clarifying question around the Director of Teaching and Learning. Would play a major role in the supervision and evaluation of teachers in concert, in collaboration with principals, assistant principals, correct?
Would play a major role in the oversight of classrooms. To some degree, supervision and evaluation, but we would really have to think that out clearly.
Perhaps.
Would probably play a greater role, Sal, in the supervision and evaluation of department heads and curriculum directors.
Okay, and perhaps non-professional status personnel?
Perhaps non-professional status personnel, perhaps personnel on improvement plans.
And I'm sorry, would share your role as a supervisor and evaluator of administrators, principals, assistant principals?
No,
Okay.
that is my main role. That would not be of the Director of Teaching and Learning. You're welcome.
Can we go back to the financial impact of tuition free?
We can.
So this is, so if we're using that just roughly $200,000 to $240,000, that is offsetting each year. So is another way to think about this that 80,000 is going to, we're basically requesting 80,000 this year and 140 next year?
That is the way that you can think about that,
Okay.
within the confines of a 4.5 budget.
And we're just assuming that we're going to have a 4.5 increase every year?
No, we're saying we're making that work within this budget of a 4.5 increase. And what I'm telling you is that we feel confident that we're going to be able to make that work within what we have generally had over the past few years, and we've had upwards of 4.0 to 4.5, and we would be able to make that work.
Dorothy, do you have some questions?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. I guess I just wanted to ask about the Director of Teacher Learning. You know, we made the investment in the professional development a few years back with the monthly early releases. And do you see this as kind of a, I mean, I know it's not specific to the professional development, but kind of the next step in, you know, teachers, you know, continuous growth and learning, you know, to, you know, support them and help them become, you know, better teachers and more efficient in the classroom?
So I would say that that's a big part of it. So when we go back to our district strategy and we look at what's important to us in our district strategy, the first two bullets of our district strategy is building capacity and it's educated growth. And so this person would definitely be involved in the development of teachers. It's about the development of their practice. One of the things that I have said to teachers, and I've said it here, is that we all have something to work on, and we all have areas within our practice that we need to focus on. And so I really am asking teachers to be reflective and really zero in on those things, and then let's find the resources to help support those things. And so the Director of Teaching and Learning would definitely be part of those conversations.
Thanks. More questions? Anyone? Okay, well, thank you, Jane. It was a great presentation, very thorough, full of information. And Christina, Maureen, thank you as well for the kindergarten presentation as well. It's very informative. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Educatius discussion for 2016-17. Okay, so do you want to lead that?
Okay,
or-
sure. So actually, this kind of goes hand in hand with my superintendent's report. And so in the past with the Educatius, the program has been I would say that the program has been very successful for us. And what I mean by that is that the students that we have brought in through Educatius have really embedded themselves in the high school culture. They are playing on some of our sports teams. They are working in, they're part of our musicals. They're in our bands. And so what I would like to see is I would like to see the school committee continue to support this program in upwards of, I would say, a maximum of 10 students that we could get from Educatius.
How many students, we've had 5 this year, 3 full year and 2 first semester students.
That is correct.
And the previous year, did we have a similar number or did we have more? Do you not know?
About,
About the same? Okay. Okay, anyone have any questions or comments on the Educatius?
Gene, there's been no disciplinary issues, nothing extraordinary that we need to know about that would cause us to pause about continuing to participate in the program?
no, Tim, I would tell you that these students have done a great job of really coming, obviously, a very far away from home, living with families here in Linfield, and for the most part have really made the transition seamlessly. I would say the biggest thing that we have dealt with is kids that have been missing their homeland and missing their parents, but they have really jumped in with 2 feet and really have been successful. So I think it's been nice for them, and I know that it's been nice for our students as well. And the other thing that, was interesting last year, watching some of the students leave us, the real bonds that have been solidified. I believe friendships that will probably be true for many, many years to come. So it's a very good program for us.
Has there ever been discussion with these students about how they chose Linfield and how they ended up here with us? I mean, I say that fully supporting the program. I think it's a win-win, that we get to exposure to, other cultures and different languages and such. And so I'm just curious, like what attracted them to Linfield and how they get here?
So my understanding is that there is a very thought-out process of interviewing these kids and what they want. One of the things that we have found out through Bob's recent trip to China is that we're unique in the program because a lot of the schools that are partnered with Educatius actually offer residential, and it's a 4-year program with a degree at the end. And so Bob was saying to me that on his trip that was one of the unique things, was that we obviously don't offer a 4-year program. And so I don't have the data to support this, but I would say that it's more for kids who just want to get a taste of America, for us, and then possibly go back to their home country. They're not staying with us for 2 years, and they're not living in dorms attached to our high school.
Okay. Sal, did you have a?
She answered my question.
Okay. Okay. Did you need us to vote on that tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we can add that to the matters of action. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Metco discussion. Oh, I'm sorry, Dorothy.
Oh, I thought I heard something.
I'm sorry, say it again?
Any vote has to be a roll call vote because, because I'm participating remotely.
Okay. All right, we'll do that at the end?
Yes.
Matters of action, okay. The next item on the agenda is the Metco discussion, which we'll also vote on at the end of the meeting.
Right, so traditionally, we have enrolled 4 students to our kindergarten program, and I would suggest that we continue this practice. And I think that we should just leave it at 4 students, as we have done in the past. It has been that we've had 2 at Huckleberry and 2 at Summer Street, but I'd like to be able to just leave that open, just in case there's any reason that we would have to put 4 at one school. But I would suggest that I'd like to see this practice continue with taking in 4 students from our METCO program.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
I know I'm getting a month ahead of us, but I know the METCO advisory board has been meeting. Have there been any big takeaways from that you've seen, or things we can be doing better, things we can, we need to be thinking about?
So that's a constant conversation that we're always having at the METCO Advisory Board. One of the reasons why we put that together was to strengthen our METCO program. What I would say in terms of big ticket items, I would say that internally, we're handling the situations as they come up. One of the biggest things that we're looking at is the social, emotional, and academic progress of our students and how we can support our METCO students more. I actually just met with all of the METCO students from the high school today, just to touch base with them. We're starting a new quarter. I've looked at their grades. This is what's going on. They're getting great grades. So let's keep that up and let's keep that momentum going. But in terms of for this committee, are there any big things that you need to be thinking about? I would say not at this point.
Okay. Anything? Okay. All right, next item is superintendent's report.
So I just told you. I already talked about it. Bob Clary's trip to China. He was gone for 10 days, and he said it was enlightening and it was exciting and it was fun to be with a lot of educators from across the country, from very elite prep schools to high schools our size. He thoroughly enjoyed working with the students and interviewing the students, and he did say he had a great handful of students who he believes will be applying to come to our high school in the fall. So he was very excited about that.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is public participation. Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to matters of action. So the first is the vote on the high school program of studies. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve the Linfield High School Program of Studies 2016 to 2017 as presented to the committee.
And we'll do a roll call vote. Jamie?
Do we need a second?
Oh, we need a second.
A second.
Second, okay. All right, Jamie?
Aye.
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 Dorothy? Aye, okay. The program of studies is approved. Okay, next motion is the Educatius vote.
Move to approve the Educatius program for 2016-2017 for up to 10 students.
Second.
Okay, Jamie?
Aye.
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 Dorothy?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, excellent, passes. And the last one is the METCO students. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the METCO program for the 2016-2017 school year for four new students.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Dorothy?
Aye.
Okay. All right, the METCO motion passes as well. Okay, final motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Roll call?
Aye.
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 Dorothy?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much for joining the meeting. Dorothy as well. Welcome to
I
the...
was hoping to be back
it's okay. We feel very modern having you here remotely, so.
Very tech savvy.
Okay, drive carefully.
Okay.